Hi guys, this is Series 1, which is designed to help you configure an Active Directory domain controller hosted by a Windows Server 2003 R2 server. So, this is episode 3, which will help configure an Active Directory domain controller. So, first things first, we need to log on. And once we have, we need to make sure that we have got a static IP address. If you've been following the tutorials, you'll find out that we already have set an IP address in episode 2. So, from the Manage Your Server wizard, we need to click Add or Remove a Role. First thing we need to put in is DNS server, which stands for Domain Name Server. So we need to insert the CD, CD1. Since I'm using a virtual machine, we'll select it here, and it'll carry on automatically, which is quite good. So decide to configure DNS and configure a DNS server wizard. So create a forward lookup zone, and we want to set up the server maintains the zone, the zone name. Now we'll have to set up the domain name that you're going to create. So in this, I'm going to create the domain name. Maybe let's create one. Ben's Tech Tips DC. Oh well, let's just you want to put .local in afterwards, because sometimes in this version of Windows Server, what can happen is the domain name may conflict with your internet domain name, which we don't want, so we have to set .local rather than .com. So next, create a new DNS. Yep, next. Do not allow dynamic updates, which will change to the secure dynamic updates for Active Directory when it does. Should it forward queries? Yes, it should. If we can type it in. Now what that's going to do is that's going to actually forward the DNS queries, anything that it doesn't know, to the firewall. So I'll just pause a minute because my phone's ringing. Right, so I'm back after that phone call. Right, so we need to click finish at this screen, and it'll say this server is now a DNS server. So finish, and what we'll have to do is we'll have to set the DNS for this machine to itself, basically. So to do that, we need to go to Network Connections and Properties of the default network connection, Internet Explorer Protocol, Internet Protocol rather. And here where it says Preferred DNS Server 10.0.0.1, we don't want that. We want 127.0.0.1. Now what that means is, well, 127.0.0.1 is basically, it's a loopback address. So basically, it's telling it to, it's basically telling it that the DNS server is itself. So, need to click OK, OK, and let it apply that. Need to close this. So you'll see here it says DNS server. That's right now, so you need to click Add or Remove a Role. This will start creating it, making it an Active Directory server. So, Domain Controller, Active Directory, we want that one. Next, and the summary is run the Active Directory installation wizard to set up this server as a domain controller. So next, should start configuring it. Right, so welcome to the Active Directory installation wizard. Next, we want to click next. Now this is a domain controller in a new domain, rather than having an additional domain controller in an existing domain. So we click this one if we want a second domain controller, which we don't, we want a first one, the primary domain controller. So for a new domain, there we go. So next, it is a new forest. Next, now we need to type in that DNS name. So I set up btt-dc.local. Now you have to put the .local in, as I say, to stop any conflicts. Click next. And what it's doing now is it's checking that there's no other domains on the network to make sure that it's not going to conflict with any other server. Okay, so the NetBIOS name we'll leave as default. Next. Now, this is where it's going to store all the information for Active Directory. What I'd recommend is you set it up so it is on a backed up hard disk. So either a RAID hard disk or another hard disk that gets backed up to an external hard disk or tape drive or whatever. But for this tutorial, we're just going to use the default. Next, and default again for that. Okay, so it's saying diagnostic failed, and that is because we set up the DNS before. But you can fix by install and configure DNS, which will set it up so that you can use it as an Active Directory domain controller, so that DNS is recognised as this Active Directory. So, permissions compatible with 2000 2003. That's the latest one, so we need next. Restore mode password, which you need to create. Then click next. They need to be strong passwords as well, by the way. So next. It should hopefully start. It's creating the volume now. It does take a few minutes for it to set it up, but so it's basically what's doing now when it's saying securing is it's changing the permissions to set up to allow for the user profiles to access the folders. So it's now an Active Directory domain controller. So finish. Not say that we need to restart, because for the Active Directory to take effect, so we click restart now. It will take slightly longer to boot up because it's got to basically, how do I put it, like it's got to basically configure the Active Directory for the first time, because it's booting up to the Active Directory domain. So preparing network connections, that's another stage that you might not see in when it was a standalone server. Okay, seems this step's taken a little while. I'm just going to pause the video and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we are now at the logon screen. Need to log on. Now you'll notice if we click options, it says log on to BTTDC. So we're logging on to that domain for the first time. And we'll see that this server is now a domain controller. And there we go, a domain controller in Active Directory. So that concludes this video. The next video, if I'm right, will be on configuring user profiles within Server 2003.